How you doing, glitches? I was talking a little bit the other day on Twitter on how to separate your audio for things like Spotify for you and or your viewers, and also how to remove them on your VODs so they don't get picked up on your recordings. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking today on the video. Let's jump right into it. Welcome back to my YouTube. Appreciate you swinging by. We are always talking about Twitch and always talking about streaming. Do me a favor, hit all the fun buttons and things of that nature. Follow me on Twitch when I go live. It's always a great time. I did want to talk about this again. I know I made a video before kind of about how to separate audio and things, but I didn't really talk about how to do it on your VOD tracks. And while this has been around for a little bit, I really haven't dove into it to this degree. So I'm going to show you a few tricks on how to do it today. So one using Voicemeeter, one not using Voicemeeter, and a couple of different ways you can set this up because there's a million ways to do this, honestly. All right, first thing I want to do is jump into OBS and just kind of show you a couple of settings that I have going on mine. So I'm just going to go File, Settings. You don't necessarily have to do this because it all depends on your individual setup, but this just makes sense for me in my setup. So I go in my audio, and you'll notice underneath the global audio devices, I have all of them set to disabled. And this is because I don't want to have my microphone, for example, show up in every single scene. I just want to populate that scene individually with what audio stream I want. Again, not necessary for what we're going to do today, but it just kind of makes sense. And also underneath advanced down here, your monitoring device, you should have this set up to whatever you listen to. So whatever that's your Voicemeeter setup or your headphone setup, whatever that is, you should have that kind of in there set up to what it's going to be. And then underneath the output side of here, this is where you can separate things to your VOD tracks. So if you don't see this here, this has been here for a while, but if you don't see this and you have an old version of OBS, update your OBS and you just see Twitch VOD track. If you enable this guy here with a checkbox, whatever is set to that channel, in this case for me is channel 6, this will actually get sent to the VOD rather than anything else. So if you want something to not go to the VOD, you would uncheck that channel. So let's just go ahead and go into something real fast to show you what that looks like. You can take any asset that you have and you can just right click on it and hit, well, actually underneath the audio mixer, if you go into like the advanced audio properties, you can see pretty much everything I have that makes audio over here for us. And then this is where your audio monitoring would be, whatever you're listening to, whether it's on or off or both. And then on the far right, those are those tracks. So for example, if I have this background, just like basically my animation in the background, it actually could play music, but it's muted. If I uncheck on 6, it will no longer get recorded to that VOD because that's what I set it up for. So if I have anything unchecked to 6 there, in my case, it will no longer get recorded on the Twitch VOD. All right, that's pretty much, honestly, a 90% of everything. And the trick now is going to be separating the audio for us. So things like Spotify, for example, or other audio programs, we actually have to channel it separately so we can separate it out on the track set, if that makes sense. So how do we do that? Okay, the first way I'm going to show you how to separate audio is going to be using Voicemeeter. I'll link this website for you down in the description of the video. There's a few great apps in here for it, and I do recommend getting Voicemeeter, especially if you have multiple microphones and multiple audio sources to route. It just makes life a lot more easy to get used to it. Anyways, I'm trying not to make this too much of a Voicemeeter video, so I'll try to go straight through it. If you want to grab the virtual audio cable, you can. We'll actually cover that a little bit later in the video. It's right here. Otherwise, we have Banana Voicemeeter, which comes with 1, 2, 3 hardware inputs, 2 virtual inputs, 3 hardware manipulations or usage, if that makes sense. And then there's Potato, which is what I use. The difference being it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actual hardware inputs and 3 virtuals, if that makes sense. So basically the same type of program, and Potato just works better for me because I use 2 computers. It's a bit more complicated as I'm routing multiple channels of audio, and I would recommend this. Basically grab this one. It's basically demoware, so it's free to use. It might prompt you to give them a donation. You know what, go for it. It can be any denomination, and after you do any sort of donation for it, it will no longer prompt you to use it. It's a great program anyways. Go ahead and download those, install those. Let me open up my Voicemeeter here. for us so you can see kind of what we're talking about. This is, let me save these settings real fast because I'm going to try to make this like you've never seen this before. And what we're going to do when you first install it, it might mess up your audio channels down here. If you go to your open sound settings, it might change your default devices for you. If it doesn't, you should go ahead and select one of the Voicemeeter channels. I'm going to use the Voicemeeter input channel, Voicemeeter VIO input, DB VIO, Voicemeeter VIO for it. And then what that will do is make everything route its default devices to Voicemeeter. My input, I'm going to go ahead and leave as my microphone, although you can change it if you wanted. And so now basically we have all the hardware coming in, and this VIO now, everything will be routed to that. So when you first come into it, it won't work at all. What you need to do is change your routing. It will have things like A routed to kind of look like something like this. Everything's routed with A1 and B1. Okay, it's kind of how it looks when you first load it. Sorry, I should probably set this up ahead of time, but you know, whatnot. Okay, and then it will probably be flashing right up here, and basically these channels is where you would pick your inputs, like your microphones and stuff, audio coming in. Virtuals, where you can manipulate basically input virtually, like it's inside the computer, and you will have this hardware out. That's where you pick them right here, A1, A2 through 5. So this is where you would put your listening devices, like your speakers or your headphones. So to make it not red, you're going to need to pick one of these devices for us. And again, I'm not trying to make this too much of a Voicemeeter channel, so just pick what you listen to. That makes sense, and it should turn to white. And then you should, if you have A1 routed, you should be able to listen to it. So if you open up something that plays music, for example, it should play your ear. That's kind of how it's set up for us. Well, what we need to do is we need to start getting Spotify separated, because right now Spotify is grouped in with everything that is in the desktop audio, and we need to split it somehow. And to do that, we can go down here into the bottom right, right click on open sound settings, scroll down a little bit, and you do app volume and sound preferences. And basically Spotify is one of those programs that if you go into it and you play around and you look around, there's no way to set your default Windows devices, okay? And so what you want to do is you want to open up Spotify, play some music, and if it doesn't show up on this list, you need to have music actively playing for us, and it will say default. I was playing around with it a second ago. And what we need to do now is we need to change the output for Spotify from default to one of those Voicemeeter channels. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the auxiliary channel. And the reason why I want to use that auxiliary channel is I want to separate it from desktop. So desktop's coming in the VIO channel, Spotify's coming in the auxiliary channel. I'm still listening to it. If you want to check that or uncheck that, you'll no longer hear it. And then down here, I'm going to route it to the B2. B2 is this auxiliary channel. Okay. B1 is this main VIO channel. Auxiliary channel is B2. And now Spotify is being routed to our Voicemeeter auxiliary, and now we can manipulate this in OBS. So let's go into OBS and do a source, new audio input capture. You can label it whatever you want. I'm not really concerned about that right now. The device is going to be that Voicemeeter auxiliary, that channel that we just made. And with Spotify still playing in the background, you can see this audio import capture, because that's what I named it, is playing some sound. So now that's Spotify being played for your audience to hear. If you don't hear it yourself and you want to hear it yourself, right click it, go to advanced audio properties, and here's where you can go underneath that audio input capture, or if you named it Spotify or whatever. If you want to monitor it so you can hear it, you can hear it by putting a monitor in output. So now you can hear it in your output. And then the other thing as well is if we uncheck track 6, basically that will no longer go into my VOD, because that's what I set up in audio properties. So that's one way to set it up, but maybe you're just a little bit standoffish about Voicemeeter. I do recommend getting Voicemeeter, especially if you are doing any sort of audio channel routing. It just makes it a lot easier. And if you have more than one computer, I highly recommend getting Voicemeeter Potato, for example, especially if you have more than one microphone or more than one audio source, because you can beam audio from one computer to the other. You can still do that in Banana. It's just a little easier in Voicemeeter Potato. And it just makes things a lot easier, especially if you're doing lots of audio routing. But anyways, let me show you how to do this with basically the virtual audio cable without using Voicemeeter at all. All right, so if you haven't got it already going, I would go ahead and get that Voicemeeter virtual audio cable here. This basically acts as like that aux channel just by itself. Its own independent one, and you'll see it in your playback devices if you have it installed correctly. You might have to run it as an administrator, and you might have to restart your computer. But basically, instead of using this Voicemeeter here, you'll still have your speakers, for example. All right, and you'd still have your microphone, for example. But down here in the app settings, I'm still playing Spotify. That's why it's showing up over here. But instead of Voicemeeter, I'm going to actually pick that virtual audio cable. Okay. And now if I go back into OBS, I'm going to do the exact same thing, except we're going to pick virtual audio cable. Now, the disadvantage of this is if you want to listen to Spotify now, you kind of have to have OBS open. So I'll just say spot chat, for example. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick now the virtual audio cable. And you'll see that spot chat now has music coming in, because it is. And if I decide to right click, or actually advanced audio properties down here, and if I decide to take the spot chat, I can go ahead and uncheck the 6 now so it doesn't turn on to my VOD. If I want to, I can monitor and output, and now you should be able to hear that in your headphones if that's what you set up in your monitoring device. So the advantage of this is you don't have to use virtual Voicemeeter. The advantage is you don't have to use Voicemeeter, but the disadvantage is if you want to listen to Spotify, you either have to have OBS open, or you'll have to go into here and change your default apps each time you want to listen to it, if that makes sense. So that's the disadvantage of it. And you also can't necessarily control your volume control for chat or yourself. You could if you want to make another input. Like if I want to go ahead and I'll just duplicate this. Let me add a new one here. So I'll add a new audio input. I'll say spot me. Whatever. I can't type. I'll pick that virtual audio cable again. Okay. And then this one here for chat. If I go down to the properties again, I don't know why I keep going up there. Advanced audio properties. For chat, I'll say monitor off. And then for me, monitor only, and then monitor off. And now I can hear it and independently change the volume. I still don't want to go into the VOD, so I'll click uncheck 6 on both. And now I can independently change the volume levels for me versus chat if I wanted to. Like maybe the music, I don't like to have it too loud in my ear, I can do that. Alright, so you can see the kind of the advantages and disadvantages of using Voicemeeter versus not Voicemeter. I am going to show you another really cool tool, and I don't use this myself, although I might recommend it for you because it kind of works like having your own mixer. Is this really cool plugin. Let me just jump into it and show you. Okay, so I'm going to link this one to you as well in the description of the video. This is AutoMonitor. It basically acts as a kind of how we just set up those last 2 channels. It does it for you automatically in your audio mixer. It can get a little bit messy because this does it for a lot of things. But if you download this guy and use it, you can use this independently, so you have a monitor channel versus a not monitor channel. And this is a really great tool if you have lots of different assets that you want to control different volume levels at. Like maybe some animation you want to have it quiet for you but loud for the audience, and vice versa. You can do this with every single source in OBS, and that's one really cool advantage for it. So if you install this, it kind of works like what we just did, and it's basically your own audio mixer, and it works great. I don't use it, but I've heard lots of really good things about it. So check out this one. This is a great resource from Exceldro. All right, I got one more way to kind of set this up, and this is kind of how I set mine up, using both Voicemeeter and the virtual audio cable, because it makes it so I can listen to it and route it, and it just a different way of doing it. let me show you how I do it on mine. Again, you can do it however you want. So I've already got Spotify playing in the background, so I can change it in the Windows settings. I want to make sure that I still have it set up. I've got Voicemeeter VIO set up as my output, and underneath my main app devices, I have Spotify. I'm going to switch it over to the cable. Okay, and now I can go ahead and pop that out. And then over here in one of the inputs, this is where you could pick like your microphones, which I'm labeling it. I don't want to label it. You just left click there. You can basically pick your microphones here if you want, so you can manipulate where your microphones get routed. In this case, I'm actually going to pick that virtual audio cable, and you can see I've still got Spotify coming in here now, and I don't want to route it to any of the virtuals, but I do want to route it to my headset, for example, so I can hear it. And now it's still in this virtual audio cable. The very first thing that happens, Spotify goes to the cable first, and then Voicemeeter picks it up. And at the same time, the virtual audio cable is available so OBS can pick it up. So now I can go underneath OBS, for example, and I can go ahead and pop it in there, and I can get that audio input capture. You can name it whatever you want again, and you can pick the cable, and the cable's volume can be manipulated for the audience. And in here, I can manipulate the volume for myself, if that makes sense. Okay, and then the same thing, I can still go underneath advanced audio properties, and then I can go ahead and uncheck, I think it's at the bottom, yeah, Spotify's at the bottom, I can uncheck check 6, so again, it doesn't get recorded to my VOD. So that's just another way to set it up. Now it's kind of actually how I run them on mine. All right, I think that's gonna wrap everything up for us today. I just wanted to get this quick video out for you so you can see what I'm talking about. I definitely recommend going the Voicemeeter route, although I know that can be a little bit standoffish for some. If you do have questions, feel free to DM me, and always check out my other videos. I've got lots of great stuff on how to set up your streams. I'll see you glitches on the next one.